in a world where different types of beings lived, like tall-eared elves, sturdy little dwarves, and regular humans. There was another group, the demons. They weren't many, but they were way stronger. For a long time, they kept fighting against the other races. The war dragged on for so long, it ended up splitting the land of Leander into two parts, east and west. Then, about 3 centuries back, a calmer demon leader took over. The fighting didn't stop right away, but things finally started to quiet down. Life wasn't perfect, but people weren't constantly at war either. That peace didn't stick around. In the 5th month of 2826, a new demon king appeared. This one didn't care for peace. He kicked off a vicious war that tore through the land, and folk started calling it the Great Invasion. One by one, the human nations began to crumble. By the next year's 4th month, the strongest of them, the Gargan Empire, was completely destroyed. The survivors had no choice but to gather whoever they could and make a final push to fight back. A small group of skilled warriors took on a risky plan: to sneak into the Demon King's stronghold and end things by taking him out. Inside, it was pure chaos. Dead creatures filled the halls. The group moved through the shadows, careful with every step. One of them spotted his friend lying on the ground, badly hurt, while a demon nearby toyed with another captive. That fighter stayed behind to deal with it, while the rest pressed forward. The last 2 humans made it to a huge doorway. One of them drank something from a little bottle, and right away his body reacted, eyes glowing red, energy rising. They pushed open the doors and walked into a strange chamber with a glowing red gem floating above the floor. But then, glowing lights zipped through the air and headed straight at them. The fighter swung his sword to block them, but one clipped his leg. Another shot might have ended him, but his teammate stepped in to stop it with a blast of magic. It exploded. She didn't survive. With his heart heavy and anger burning, he faced a flying creature that had just shown up. It sent out more blasts. He dodged and swung his blade, but the beast's arms turned into sharp weapons, and the fight got brutal. Red energy waves crashed around him. Tired and running out of options, he drew on the gem's power and poured it into his sword. The creature tried to block him, but it wasn't enough. The final strike ripped it apart, leaving nothing but pieces. The fighter dropped to the floor, spent and alone. Silence fell. He looked at the glowing crystal. It was still pulsing with power. Even though his body felt broken, he pulled himself toward it. He didn't know what would happen, but he knew he couldn't leave it like that. His hand reached out and touched the gem. Symbols lit up around him, and pain rushed through his body like fire. Suddenly everything changed. A peaceful night, a flower, a butterfly landing for a moment, then vanishing. He woke up in a bed soft sheets. Warm, light. The place was calm, unfamiliar. He got up, looked around. The window showed a city full of lights and tall buildings under a clear sky. It didn't look like anything from the world he knew. He rubbed his face, trying to process it all. Then flashes of destruction hit him. Buildings in flames, screams, smoke. His head hurt. It felt too real to be fake. Someone came into the room and froze when they saw him awake. Her face brought back a flood of memories. She was someone he never thought he'd see again. On instinct, he rushed to hug her, clumsy and desperate. They lost their balance and hit the bed, awkward and painful. She didn't take it well and walked off, leaving him catching his breath. That pain in his ribs? It was real. That confirmed it. This wasn't some fantasy. He threw off the blanket and noticed something glowing beside him. It was the same red gem, still warm, still humming with energy. He walked to the mirror and froze. No wounds, no scars. His face looked younger. The war-torn version of him was gone. Out the window, everything looked peaceful, normal. She was alive. Somehow he had gone back. He held the gem again. Whatever this thing was, it didn't just rewind time, it changed everything. Then his stomach growled. A simple feeling, but it meant he was really here. He made his way to the dining room. The table was covered with food. He didn't wait, he ate like someone who hadn't tasted anything decent in years. It was like being home again, bite after bite. It all felt real, and soon there wasn't a single crumb left. Just then, someone walked in and stopped dead in their tracks. They stared at the empty table. Kyle froze too. He recognized this guy right away, an old friend from the battlefield. Back then, they'd stood together against impossible odds. Seeing him now, alive and well, was surreal. He asked what the date was. The answer made his heart race. 5th month, 24th day, year 28, 23. His birthday. And 3 whole years before everything fell apart. His friend laughed it off, teased him about the food, and wandered off, still hungry. Typical. That guy could joke about anything and always found a way to get what he wanted. Kyle stayed behind, still stunned. Somehow, he had a second chance, and this time, he wouldn't waste it. Kyle sat alone, trying to make sense of everything. Was he really back in the past? Maybe that strange gem had something to do with it. He stepped outside and headed to a familiar building nearby, his old workplace. Inside, he spotted someone flipping through pages. It made his heart freeze. She was alive. Someone he had lost. Someone important. She didn't even notice the time had passed, too busy with her reading. It was his mother, a well-known magic expert. He started wondering if she knew anything about magic that messes with time. She wasn't sure, but she'd always been someone people looked up to when it came to spells and ancient stuff. Time magic, she said, was real, but using it was nearly impossible. Even the most powerful mages in history couldn't turn back time, not even for a few seconds. Kyle brought up the idea of magical objects instead. That caught her attention. Maybe storing power in something physical could work, but it would take hundreds of years, maybe longer, to build up that kind of energy. Kyle brought up another thought. What if someone used darker ways? Forbidden stuff? That made her stop and take him seriously. Those methods needed life as fuel. She said using that kind of spell would take more than anyone could handle. In fact, it would need the lives of millions. That made Kyle stop and think. All the people who died during the war, was that all part of it? She flipped open an old book and showed him a drawing. It was a rare, ancient item, something called the Sacred Dragon Heart. Kyle's eyes widened. It looked just like the red gem he had. She explained that it once kept a magical empire alive for generations, but when it lost power, the kingdom collapsed. That gem had vanished centuries ago. No one thought it still existed. Things started to click for Kyle. The gem, the past, the war. It all made sense now. His mother seemed happy to talk with him like this for once. He said sorry for being distant before. She said he felt different now, like he had been through more than she could see. That made him pause, but she just laughed and changed the subject. Then she mentioned food. Someone had cooked earlier, but Kyle had already eaten it all. She was surprised, but he just shrugged it off. When she found out it was his birthday, she told him to count the meal as his present. Kyle couldn't help but roll his eyes. Typical. Later, he sat outside, staring at the glowing gem again. He kept wondering why he was here. What did it all mean? Why send him back? Behind him, Lizzie showed up. He felt bad about earlier and tried to say sorry in his own way. She seemed to understand. He said it was all because of a strange dream. She guessed what kind. It probably had something to do with her. That guess hit too close. She sat with him for a while. The air felt calm, but Kyle's mind wasn't. He remembered something that hit him hard. His town, years ago. The first place to fall when the demons attacked. Everything burned. He lost her back then. That pain never left. Lizzie's voice pulled him back to the moment. She smiled and sat closer, but Kyle wasn't at peace. He knew what was coming. 3 years from now, it would all happen again. He was the only one who knew the truth. If he did nothing, the same tragedy would repeat. He stood up fast and shouted to the sky. He was done staying quiet. He would stop it all, from the demons to the disaster to the heartbreak. No matter what it took, he'd change everything. Lizzie watched him, confused but silent. Later, Kyle sat inside, writing everything he could remember in a notebook. He didn't care if people thought he was crazy. He had to be ready. The Demon King would rise again, and this time, he'd be the one to stop it. But deep down, he knew he wasn't strong enough yet. Not now. He looked at his sword resting nearby. With steady hands, he picked it up. Not as the same old Kyle, but as someone with a reason to fight.